The Outlaw. Josey Wales isn't just a Western, it's a hymn to vengeance, loss, and stubborn survival. And for fans who've watched it a dozen times, it still leaves questions buried under its dust. Why did the studio try to kill it before filming even began? Which shocking betrayal almost tore the set apart? And how did Clint Eastwood secretly change Hollywood forever while directing it? If you think you know this classic, these 20 buried truths will rattle everything you remember. Fact 1. The author lived a double life. Before Josey Wales became a movie, he came from a lie. The book's author used the name Forrest Carter. People thought he was a kind Cherokee storyteller, but that wasn't true. His real name was Asa Earl Carter. He was once a speechwriter who spread hate and racism. Then he disappeared. Years later, he came back with a new name and a cowboy story. No one knew who he really was. The man who once spread hate wrote about mercy and honor. That mix of anger and kindness shaped Josey. And Hollywood had no clue the story they bought was written by a man hiding from his past. Fact 2. Clint Eastwood fired the director. The movie set felt like a war zone. Director Philip Kaufman worked slowly, planning every shot. Clint Eastwood hated waiting. He liked moving fast and trusting his gut. Soon they started arguing. Tension grew every day under the hot sun. Then one morning, Kaufman was gone, fired in the middle of filming. When the crew arrived, Clint was in the director's chair. Everyone froze. Hollywood was shocked. Studios feared the movie would crash and burn. But Clint stayed calm and kept filming. Still, the Directors Guild wasn't about to let it slide. They were ready to strike back. Fact 3. Hollywood created the Eastwood Rule. The backlash came like a gunshot. The Directors Guild of America stormed into action, furious over what Clint had done. They saw it as mutiny, a star tossing out his captain and steering the ship himself. Within weeks, they passed a new rule. Actors who also produce a film could never again fire their directors, and they could never take over a shoot themselves. Everyone called it the Eastwood Rule. Suddenly, Clint wasn't just making a Western, he had changed Hollywood law. Studios scrambled to rewrite contracts. Directors quietly cheered in relief. Eastwood just kept filming, silent and steady, letting the movie speak louder than he did. But now the spotlight was burning hot. Every eye in Hollywood was watching Josey Wales, waiting for it to fail. Fact 4. The desert tried to kill the film. The war behind the camera was bad, but the desert was worse. They shot through Texas and Arizona summer, where the air itself seemed to shimmer with heat. By noon, it was 120 degrees. Cameras jammed from the dust. Costumes soaked through with sweat before the first take. Horses stumbled and collapsed mid-scene, legs buckling like folding chairs. Extras fainted one after another as crew dragged them to shade. No one could breathe right. Even Eastwood slowed down, moving like a man underwater. The heat warped film reels and cracked wooden props. Some nights they found lizards curled inside boots, seeking the last bit of cool. And still, Clint kept going. Quiet, focused, relentless. Every day he told the crew, "We finish this." But nature wasn't done attacking them, because something even darker began creeping through the camp, and it carried real bullets. Fact 5. The rumor of real bullets. It started as a whisper on the wind. Then it crawled through the crew like wildfire. Someone claimed a prop man had slipped real ammunition into a few guns. No one knew why. A prank? A threat? No one could prove it, but no one could shake it either. Suddenly, gunfight scenes felt too real. The bangs too sharp. The flashes too violent. Actors flinched even when they hit their marks. A stuntman refused to stand near the barrels. The armorer swore it wasn't true, but checked every chamber twice. The rumor poisoned the air. Every take felt like Russian roulette. A single mistake could turn fiction into funeral. The story has never been confirmed, but decades later, some crews still swear they saw real brass shells hit the dirt. And through it all, Eastwood never blinked. Instead, he made the set even quieter. So quiet it became eerie. Fact 6. Clint risked. Getting sued to finish the film, Clint Eastwood didn't just fight the desert. He fought Hollywood itself. After he fired director Philip Kaufman, Warner Bros. Panicked. They froze the budget, terrified Kaufman would sue and drag the film into court. They told Clint to stop shooting until it was sorted out. He didn't. Instead, he quietly kept filming in secret, with no studio approval. Every day he shot without legal protection was a gamble. If Kaufman had filed a lawsuit mid-shoot, Clint could have lost everything. The footage, the money, even his right to release the film. The crew worked like outlaws, racing to finish scenes before the studio shut them down. Some days they didn't even file paperwork, just shot and moved on. It was dangerous, reckless, and brilliant. Because when the studio finally saw the finished cut, they couldn't stop it anymore. Clint had already won. Fact 7. Josey barely speaks, and that was the point. Most Western heroes talk big. Josey barely talks at all. In a 2-hour film, Clint Eastwood speaks fewer lines than many silent-era stars. That wasn't laziness, it was strategy. Eastwood slashed dialogue from the script like carving meat off bone. He wanted Josey to feel mythic, a shadow drifting through war smoke. Every word mattered because there were so few of them. Crew worried he was going too far. How do you build a character who barely opens his mouth? Clint said, "Let the silence talk." It worked. Every pause became a threat. Every glance carried the weight of gunfire. Josey didn't need speeches, the world around him did the talking. Even today, film schools study his silence as power. But while Clint was cutting words, he was also cutting something much riskier, the ending itself. And he started doing it in secret. Fact 8. The ending was rewritten on set. The ending of Josey Wales wasn't planned, not really. When they first started shooting, the script had a clean wrap-up. Josey rides off. Justice is served. Fade to black. But Clint hated how tidy it felt. Too clean for a story built on blood and ashes. So, in the final weeks, he started rewriting. Not once. Every day. Pages showed up with fresh ink and crossed-out paragraphs. Actors learned new lines minutes before takes. Whole scenes vanished overnight. Even the crew didn't know how the film would end until they shot it. The version you see, Josey slipping away, leaving peace behind, was a gamble. It's softer, more human. It almost didn't happen. And that quiet, bittersweet goodbye? It broke Western tradition wide open. But Clint wasn't doing it alone. Someone else was secretly helping. And never got credit. Fact 9. The secret co-director no one talks about. While Clint sat in the big chair, another man stood just behind it. Ferris Webster, his longtime editor. Officially, Webster was only there to cut the film later. Unofficially, he was Clint's hidden right hand. Whenever scenes bogged down, Webster stepped in with solutions. He suggested faster setups, tighter shots, smoother blocking. Some crew whispered he was quietly co-directing, but his name never appeared on any call sheets. He stayed in the shadows, shaping the rhythm while Clint shaped the tone. It was a quiet alliance, and it saved the film's pace. By the time Warner Brothers saw the first rough cut, they were stunned. The chaos was gone. The story sang. But Webster never took credit. He walked away when editing wrapped, like a ghost slipping back into the cutting room. And Clint's next move would shock everyone, because he banned Hollywood acting entirely. Fact 10. Eastwood banned Hollywood acting. Before the cameras rolled, Clint gathered the cast together. He gave them a rule they didn't expect. No acting, he said. Not bigger, not louder. Quieter, smaller, real. He told them to throw away every bit of theater training. No grand gestures, no booming voices. He wanted them to speak like people, not performers. Some actors panicked. They were used to Western heroes spitting lines like bullets. Clint wanted pauses, hesitations, human mess. The difference was stunning. Suddenly, the film stopped feeling like a show. It felt like eavesdropping on real men and women trying to survive. A simple smile meant more than a monologue. A twitch meant danger. Even today, critics call Josey Wales one of the most naturalistic westerns ever shot. It breathed, it lived. But Hollywood hated how much control Clint had, and soon they came after him personally, with blacklists on their tongues. Fact 11. The DGA tried to blacklist Eastwood. After Kaufman's firing, the Directors Guild was furious. They wanted revenge. To them, Clint had broken the sacred order. An actor should never overthrow a director. Never. And now the industry was buzzing that Eastwood might do it again. Behind closed doors, the DGA debated banning him from directing forever. If they pulled it off, his career behind the camera would end. Permanently. Memos flew between studios. Some executives quietly warned they wouldn't hire him again. Whispers of blacklist circled like vultures. But Clint stayed silent. He didn't fight with press statements or angry quotes. He finished the movie, delivered it on time, and it turned out beautiful. When Josey Wales hit theaters, audiences lined up. The Guild backed off, grumbling. Clint had survived. Barely. But survival wasn't enough for him anymore. Now he wanted freedom. Total freedom. And he was about to risk everything for it. Fact 12. Eastwood gambled his own money to save it. Midway through the chaos, Warner Brothers froze the budget. Too risky, they said. They feared lawsuits from Kaufman. They feared a public disaster. So they cut off the money. Clint didn't flinch. He opened his own wallet. Quietly, secretly, he started paying out of pocket to keep the set alive. Crew found out weeks later. Some were stunned, some were angry. If the film failed, Clint would lose millions. But that gamble gave the team something new: pride. They weren't just working for a studio anymore, they were building his vision with his blood in it. Every shot felt heavier, sharper. It was personal now. And they delivered. When Josey Wales finally wrapped, Clint got every dime back and more. But he never bragged. He just moved on. Because he wasn't done rewriting Hollywood yet. Next, the movie would shake the world outside the studio walls. Fact 13. Some TV stations refused to show it. The Outlaw Josey Wales hit theaters like a bullet. But when it came time for television, some networks flinched. This wasn't because of blood or cursing. It was because of who Josey had been. A Confederate guerrilla. A man fighting on the losing side of history. In the mid-70s, civil rights wounds were still raw. Executives feared backlash for airing a film that made an ex-Confederate a hero. Several stations quietly pulled it from their schedules. Others demanded heavy edits, chopping whole speeches out. Viewers were confused. The movie was a hit, so why was it vanishing from their screens? Controversy followed it for years. Critics debated if it glorified rebels or showed a broken man clawing for peace. Eastwood stayed silent through it all, and that silence made him even more mysterious. But controversy wasn't the only thing chasing him now, because hate mail started arriving, and one letter carried something terrifying inside. Fact 14. Clint got death threats for making it. The first one looked harmless, just a plain white envelope. Inside was a letter calling him a traitor. The second one dripped venom, accusing him of romanticizing killers. And the third, it held a live bullet. Security guards appeared on set the next morning. Screenings got quiet escorts from local police. Clint never said a word about it. He just kept showing up to work. But the threats were real. Some were scrawled in red marker. Some quoted lines from the movie like warnings. "Hell is coming," one read. For a while, every loud pop on set made people jump. Was it a firecracker or something worse? Clint walked through it like a ghost, calm, steady, unshaken. But the pressure only grew, because something strange was happening out in the real world. People weren't just watching Josey, they were starting to follow him. Fact 15. Real outlaw groups claimed Josey as their symbol. The movie was fiction, but some people didn't care. In the 1980s, small survivalist and anti-government groups began quoting Josey Wales in manifestos. They called him a true patriot, a symbol of defiance against government tyranny. They wore his lines on patches. They named clubs after him. One group even staged a photo with rifles under a banner that said, "Live like Josey." They weren't fans, they were disciples, twisting his character into something he was never meant to be. Reporters asked Clint what he thought. He never answered. Maybe he didn't want to feed the fire. But the damage was done. A fictional outlaw had escaped the screen and become a real-world banner of rebellion. And still, the legend grew. Even politicians started quoting the film, in places Clint never expected to hear his words echo. And the halls of power were next. Fact 16. The U.S. Senate quoted Josey Wales. Years after the dust settled, Josey's words rode somewhere no one expected. Into the halls of American power. During a heated Senate debate, a politician rose to speak. Instead of quoting the Constitution, he quoted the outlaw Josey Wales. "Endeavor to persevere," he said, straight from Lone Waddy's mouth. The chamber actually laughed, then applauded. The quote spread through newspapers like wildfire. Soon, other senators borrowed lines from the film in speeches about grit and survival. A fictional outlaw had become a symbol of American determination. It stunned Hollywood reporters. They were used to hearing Jefferson, Lincoln, or Churchill, not a gunslinger who spat tobacco and rode alone. But Josey had crossed over. He wasn't just a character anymore, he was folklore. And the film that made him folklore was only just starting to roar. Because when it hit theaters, something shocking happened. It didn't just survive the chaos, it exploded. Fact 17. It became a sleeper hit. The studio expected it to flop. Most westerns were dying by the mid-1970s. After all the drama, they figured Josey Wales would limp out of theaters quietly. They were wrong. Audiences showed up in droves. Box offices filled with lines stretching around the block. Critics who predicted disaster suddenly called it haunting, soulful, and unshakably human. The film earned over $30 million, a massive hit for its time. And it didn't fade. It stayed. People went back to watch it twice, 3 times, even more. Clint had risked his career and reputation, and won. The movie revived interest in westerns when the genre was on life support. It proved you could make a gunfighter tale feel human again. Hollywood had underestimated him, and now Clint was done letting studios control him. He had a new plan, and he was about to break free. Fact 18. Josey Wales launched Clint's empire. After Josey Wales, Clint never went back to the old way. No begging studios, no asking permission. He used the film's success as his cannon blast. He built Malpaso Productions into his fortress. His own studio, his own rules. No executives breathing down his neck, no guilds threatening him again. Just Clint, his crew, and the stories he wanted to tell. That one decision changed the shape of his entire career. It gave him the freedom to make Unforgiven, Million Dollar Baby, Mystic River, all of it. The artist people praise today was born in that desert. Josey Wales wasn't just a hit. It was Clint Eastwood's jailbreak. He walked out of the studio system's cage, shut the door behind him, and never went back. But even decades later, through all the awards and fame, he still whispers about this film. Because to him, it was never just another Western. It was personal. Fact 19. Eastwood calls. It is favorite. Clint Eastwood has ridden through a lifetime of legends. He's played cowboys, cops, boxers, and ghosts of war. But when interviewers ask which film means the most to him, he always circles back to the Outlaw Josey Wales, not Unforgiven, not Million Dollar Baby. Josey, he says it's the story that came closest to his heart. A man broken by loss who finds family again among strangers. It's quieter than his other hits, sadder, but it glows with something deeply human. Maybe that's why he fought so hard for it. Why he risked his career, his money, and his reputation to see it finished. He didn't just direct it, he carried it. And even now, when the topic comes up, his voice softens. Like he's remembering the desert wind. But what he sees as a personal favorite, the world has come to see as something more. A classic, a myth, a piece of American memory. Fact 20, Josey Wales became immortal. Time usually buries old westerns in dust. Josey Wales refused to sink. It's been nearly half a century since Clint fired that first shot on set, and the film still stands tall. In 1996, the U.S. Library of Congress added it to the National Film Registry. They called it culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. That title means it will be preserved forever, protected like a national treasure, right beside The Godfather, Star Wars, and Citizen Kane. Not bad for a film born out of chaos, a mutiny, a furnace of heat and whispers and bullets. What began as Clint Eastwood's biggest gamble became his lasting monument. The outcast outlaw wrote out of fiction and carved himself into American legend. And maybe that's why we still watch. Because beneath the dust and gunfire, Josey Wales isn't just a Western. It's proof that even the broken can become unforgettable. And that's the wild truth behind The Outlaw Josey Wales, a film born from chaos, defiance, and Clint Eastwood's unshakable vision. From the secret past of Forrest Carter, the author of The Rebel Outlaw Josey Wales, to the scrappy, risk-fueled making of this 1976 classic, every frame carries a hidden tale. These little-known facts don't just reveal the movie's soul, they reshape how we see Western film history. If you love surprising movie facts and classic Western movies, keep exploring more behind-the-scenes Josey Wales trivia.